It's a lock party.
The station in the mix. Best music. Back to back. Come on, DJ. Hit me with another track. 107, The Lock.
Stolen Conversation, powered by 107 The Lock. This is a very special episode today. We're here in Winter Park, Florida, at / a distillery and blending house. And we're here with Samir. How's it going, man?
It's going pretty good.
Yes, sir. Good to have you. So we're out here today. I know you guys are celebrating your second anniversary. It's tomorrow, right?
Yeah. We turned this many.
2. Cool, man. So you got some festivities or tomorrow afternoon, and then you have a mixer like in a week or something, yeah? Or next week?
Yeah, we have
a lot of parties coming.
A lot of parties, and then, tomorrow we have a maker's market, so there'll be a bunch of like local little vendors who make a little bit of, sometimes it's like little kitsch, sometimes it's like bakers and stuff like that we've had. So that'll be there from like 2 to 6, and then from all day we're doing all day happy hour, so that's like $5 off cocktails, $3 off flights. So
man,
yeah,
practically free.
Pretty close.
Yeah, that's cool. So getting right into, what would you, because I'll be honest, I'm a little ignorant to the business, maybe some of the terminology.
Fair.
What would you describe the overall industry that this is?
So, I mean, this is, I would call this the spirits industry, liquor industry. We specifically are on the production side, and then between us and, say, a bar, there is the distributor. So Florida is a 3-tier system. So there's the producer, there's the distributor, and then there's the end user, a bar or a retail store. And so, that's kind of the liquor industry in a nutshell as far as like the 3 big categories within that. Producer, distributor, and then you have like the retailer, the bar, the liquor store, whatever it is.
And you guys do...
And so we're the producers, and then because we are a craft distillery, we have a tasting room, and we can actually sell bottles and cocktails from our tasting room. So we operate kind of like a bar, and that's kind of where I take over and I kind of look after for the most part.
Gotcha.
And Tim and Mike are more on the production side and the distillery, which is all around us here.
Kind of do operate as all 3 in a sense.
A little bit. I mean, we are partnered with Maverick for distribution, so we can't distribute ourselves. Yeah.
Got you. So how does that work when it comes to distribution? Why can't you?
It's just the way the Florida is set up. It's you have to be the producer. The producer then gives to a distributor, kind of the same way. Kind of the same way cars are set up, where it's like we can't buy directly from a
checks and balances.
Yeah, it has to go to a retailer, and then the retailer will sell the cars to the people.
Gotcha.
So,
okay, I got it. Thank you for that. I know you have an extensive background in this, and Tim and Michael, the owners, co-owners, founders. How did they meet, and where did the idea of let's open a distillery come from?
So both Tim and Mike, they've been in the industry in one way or another. Tim is more from the bartending perspective. He was definitely in the earlier iterations of the Orlando chapter of the USBG, U.S. Bartenders Guild. And so he was doing a lot of stuff for that. He was in the world-class competition, which is held by Diageo, which is a very prestigious competition. He did pretty well in that. So he has a very extensive just bartending background. He, for a while, was the beverage director for the World Center Marriott, largest Marriott in the world. And when he was there, he was doing a lot of barrel programs. He started a very cool cocktail program there as well, but doing barrel picks for wines and everything, he had access to a lot of really interesting stuff, and he was doing some cool stuff. And Michael, he, almost 10 years ago, had started the Orlando Whiskey Society. He has a big passion for whiskey. And, through that, he got to know a lot of bartenders. And there was one year he decided to, for his bartending friends to go ahead and make some bitters, like custom bitters for them. And it happens to be my mentor at, one of my mentors at Little Indies. She fell in love with Michael's bitters, and she forced him into starting his own bitters company. And for him, he was partnered with Manifest Distilling up in Jacksonville. And so part of getting this place built for Michael was just, no longer having to schlep it up 2.5, 3 hours up, 2.5, 3 hours down every 3-4 times a week to check on his business. And it just happened to be so they both have this real passion for whiskey, and they both kind of had this idea of doing a blending house. They were really inspired by a company called Compass Box, which they'd make blended scotch. And one of the things is, in Scotland, it is actually against the law for a blender to talk about where they're sourcing their whiskeys or anything. So like Johnny Walker Black,
Really?
It's just, this is our Johnny Walker Black, this is our Johnny Walker Platinum. They're not allowed to talk about anything. John Glazer, the man who runs Compass Box, he's kind of turning that on its head. He's trying to get as much information. He wants to be a little more transparent about the products. And so that's something that we are luckily able to do very easily here. It's just, here, blending is actually quite common. It's just generally there's somebody doing a white label, and they want to kind of just do their own branding, or you've got a small producer and he has to sign an NDA, and they can't really talk about where they're sourcing from. So for us, we're kind of flipping that on its head, and we won't work with you if you make us sign an NDA. We are only kind of working with small independent distilleries, and we want to tell your story as part of our story. It's kind of part of the ethos here, for sure.
The transparency.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's good. No, I mean, if you're consuming anything, you kind of want to know where it's coming from or what's in it.
Especially with the history of liquor. I mean, back in the day, bootlegging,
right,
and a lot of bootleg liquors. Some of these guys, somewhere along the lines of transport, they would actually, the whiskey would be adulterated. Somebody would steal some off the top, and then they'd go in and fill it. They'd refill it with water, sometimes wood alcohol, which will kill you, and then they'd use stuff like oil and shoe polish to get that color matched right. So back in the day,
That's
there was
crazy.
some real mess up stuff, and people mess with liquor a lot. I've been on the receiving end where I was at a bar that had a really nice bottle of Johnny Walker Blue there, and I was surprised that they were selling it for $30 a shot, because that's almost unheard of.
Jeez.
Yeah, that's like a $300 bottle, and $20, $30 a pour is insane. And I had tried Johnny Walker before, Johnny Walker Blue, but when we received those shots, it was definitely Johnny Walker Black. It was not Johnny Blue. And when I brought that up to the manager's like, I have a certificate. I'm like, that doesn't stop you from refilling this bottle. He ended, if he was so sure that he was serving Johnny Walker Blue, he wouldn't have taken back
Wow.
So.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So why does somebody, and what makes a good alcohol, why can somebody sell a shot for $30, but another shot might be, I don't know, $15? What makes the difference?
A lot of that, it does come from the production aspect, and then at a certain point it does become a little bit of a rarity thing and marketing. So during the production of alcohol, once you start distilling, you have 3 parts to your distillation run. The first portion that'll come off early is methanol. It's referred to as the heads. And methanol is the alcohol that'll make you go blind. So, there were the old talks of, bathwater gin and just poorly made moonshine. It'll make people go blind. It will also kill you at a certain
Literally?
point. Yeah, it'll
Okay.
make you go blind.
Wow.
So that's the stuff that's really poisonous to you, and you have to take that out. Usually in a production facility, we can use that for cleaning because that's fine. Nobody's going to eat. You can clean out everything. It'll evaporate off.
Yeah.
And then you have the part that everybody, that's like, it's called the hearts. It's the most sought after portion of the distillation run. That's where you're getting the best and purest like ethanol coming off of that distillation run. You're getting some of the best flavor out of your alcohol. And then at the end, you have your tails, where you're going to get a little more of those like fusel oils and more of maybe some of the less flavorful, less desirable, flavorable compounds coming out. Now, some people will go ahead and they'll fold those tails back in and they'll to the next run, and they'll redistill it. Some people will, the longer you let those tails run, like you're putting out a lower quality product, but you're able to then stretch and you're able to produce more bottles. So that's kind of where, you do start to see where alcohol is. You do pay for what, you get what you pay for.
Sure.
But then at a certain point, like you start to pay for the bottle, the packaging, and the marketing. And then with whiskeys, like with aged product, you're getting into, there's already a loss that's created because depending on what environment you are, you have what's called the angel share and the devil's cut. The devil's cut is what gets soaked into the barrel, and that's never going to be recouped. And the angel share is alcohol being a volatile substance. It's just going to evaporate out of the barrel. Nothing you can do about it. So you have a little bit of loss of product that you got to account for. So that's also it. So that's where a lot of those costs come in. And then, again, you have people who start collecting bottles because somebody's doing super limited runs. Like, I mean, for us, everything we do is relatively limited, but we try and get, 800 to 1,000 bottles for some of our flagship stuff. But the Arts Festival, the Winter Park Arts Festival whiskey that we have there, that was super limited. I think we only got like 140, 160 bottles of that. Okay. So, I mean, we sold out of it for this past weekend when the Arts Festival was happening. So,
Got you.
Yeah, the rest of it is going to be held back. We can serve pours of it, but, yeah, there's not much of it left.
So the head, the heart, and the tails.
Yeah.
And you primarily serve the heart is what?
The heart is the
what
most
the
desirable
package-
part, and that's that's one of the big ones that everybody tries to use. But again, there is the sense of you're going to get a little bit of flavor in that tails cut, which can be useful. But if you let that tails run a little too long, you're basically stretching the product. You can bring down you can bring down what you charge the customer, but that's also where you're probably going to have a really rough hangover if you drink a little too much of it.
Got you.
Yeah.
The super
Yeah.
potent stuff.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah, that's stuff that comes in a plastic bottle, plastic fifth.
Got you. Okay. So it's cheaper. But yeah. Not as good. I got you. Okay. I'm just trying to make sense of it all because, like I said, when it comes to aging and like letting things sit, like why age something for like 30 days versus 2 years? Like what? So
I mean, part of that would just be the way the alcohol interacts with the wood and what kind of a barrel you have. Back in the day, it was a means of containing that much product that you had. You just needed a larger vessel than a couple bottles.
Gotcha.
But that turned into, like here in America, the laws for bourbon and rye, especially straight bourbon, straight rye, it has to go into a virgin oak barrel, so a barrel that's never been used. Whereas in Scotland, they almost exclusively use used barrels, so the majority of our used barrels end up over there. And so with a used barrel, you're going to get a little less extraction and a little less of that oak coming through, but you'll get something imparted from the whiskey that was in there before. So that can run a little bit longer. And then also you got to think of different environments. Like Kentucky, it does get cold, but it's still pretty hot most of the year. Florida, very hot most of the year. The hotter it is, the more humid it is, it literally drives that whiskey or whatever product you're aging into the barrel. And so just depending on how much extraction you're getting from that barrel, that's also where you're aging for a couple months to a couple years. And whether you're doing a finish or you're doing the majority of the maturation.
Okay. So it's all to taste or
Yeah,
to
it's
preference.
just different variables to control, and it's like where you think that's the sweet spot for my whiskey is this kind of age
and
time.
it'll definitely have an
Yeah.
impact on the flavor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, with us using new unused charred oak barrels, we get a lot more of that wood structure, that tannic structure coming from the barrel, and so our whiskeys tend to be a little more. I guess people like to say it's like a little more brash, a little more rough. Sometimes, again, it's got a lot more of that oak character coming through. Over in some of the other regions like Scotland, Ireland, where they're maybe using used barrels for the most part, it's not gonna have as much of that strong oak character. It'll have a little bit of a softer note to it. So,
Got you.
yeah,
Interesting. Very interesting. Something you don't really think about as a consumer.
yeah, fair.
You know, all that goes into it. I just want to drink. I know you guys supply to a lot of distilleries. I mean, nationwide.
Yeah.
You know, primarily up and down the East Coast. Some
Yeah.
here in Florida as well.
Mm-hmm.
How does somebody go about making those connections? I believe you said Tim
Yeah, Tim and
already
Michael.
had a relationship with one of the distilleries already, but
Yeah,
you know,
so-
if getting new places, how does that work?
So again, that has a lot to do with Tim and Michael's background. So Michael, again, with starting the Orlando Whiskey Society, he was doing a lot of barrel picks, going out to Kentucky, visiting a lot of these distilleries. So he got to know a lot of, a lot of the people in these distilleries, and those were some connections. Tim, again, being a buyer, being a large buyer, especially World Center being a massive account for a lot of distilleries, he was able to, make his own connections. And so for us, it's a very interesting relationship because a lot of other blenders, they're going through brokers, and so they're buying their barrels sight unseen. For us, especially because of the way we are blending, we have kind of developed personal relationships with these distilleries, like very close relationships with these distilleries, and they're sending us like a set of barrel samples, and we hand select basically every drop of juice that comes into this warehouse.
Got you.
Yeah.
That's cool. So
So-
you guys have weekends where you're in here just taste testing and
A
everything?
little bit sometimes, yeah. It's a hard job, but somebody's got to
Oh,
do
yeah,
it.
right? No sick days? Do they
I mean, that's what the whiskey's for. Feeling a little sick, have a hot toddy.
Got you. Cures everything. What they say, like the easiest way to cure a hangover is have what you were
Yeah.
drinking the night before, right? Something like that.
Yep. Oh, yeah, a hair of the dog. Yeah.
Okay. You know the terms. I don't. What makes a great? We kind of talked about the alcohol already, but when it comes to non-alcoholic, you guys do serve mocktails.
Mm-hmm.
How do you determine what makes a great mocktail?
I mean, we're lucky here in that we produce all of our own syrups from scratch, and so I'd say making a mocktail you should have just as much thought in that as when you're developing your cocktails. Like, you don't have the alcohol to balance things out. You can't just throw a bunch of sugar into it and add soda water and throw that out. That's just going to be sickly sweet. It's boring. You still need to balance that out with a little acid. You got to find something. Maybe, obviously, don't use as much sugar when you're coming up with your mocktail recipes and whatnot. So you don't create a cloyingly sweet drink that's just. I mean, they're still paying customers. They deserve
Sure.
just as much attention and care as people buying liquor, drinking.
That's nice, man. That's good
Yeah.
to hear for sure. I've noticed, and just even speaking with you, being here, some certain things when it comes to the environment. I talked about transparency. I think authenticity,
Yep.
innovation, forward thinking, no pun intended, boldness. I get unity from the staff here, and everyone's been very warm, welcoming.
Awesome.
How would you describe the culture here at /?
I mean, definitely amongst the staff, it's a very small staff, so we're all kind of like a secondary family here. Like, me, Tim, and Mike definitely joke about the fact that we kind of live here right now. You know, we're still in our infancy. We're putting in a lot of time to keep this place running and being able to do all the cool stuff we're doing. And then as far as the ethos of the brand, I'd say, like, that's a big thing. It's like we like to talk about these other small businesses. Like we're trying to show other we're a small business helping other small businesses, trying to show them off, because also some of these guys might not have a foothold in this market just because their production is small. And so we're able to kind of show off the juice that they are making, and then we can show you a bottle that we've used some of that product in. And, you know, then you have collectors who, when they're traveling, it's like, oh, I saw a bottle of J. Henry. I really like that when I had it at Forward Slash. Never seen it anywhere else in Florida. You know, they can pick that up. So little things like that. It's kind of cool. And then also around here, we do a lot of, like, local collaborations. We've done events like a whiskey and cheese pairing, and we use Simply Cheese. Annie is fantastic. We actually did a olive oil and whiskey spirits class. That was kind of cool with a locally based olive oil somm. And
cool.
yeah, and then even still, like one of the barrels we had, we gave to our friends over at Sideward Brewing over in the Milk District. And actually this weekend for their anniversary, they're going to be releasing I believe it's a stout that they've been aging for almost 2 years in there.
Wow.
So, yeah.
You guys have anything here from the inception? 2 years or?
Ooh, we've got a couple barrels here from, from when we first started. But yeah, we try not to have barrels sitting here for too long, because
Understood.
again, with the environment here in Orlando, Florida, and us not having a really climate-controlled warehouse,
You're going to lose a lot of it. Yeah.
Lose some of it. It's also going to keep driving that whiskey in the wood. It's going to start to become a little too tannic. We don't want anything that's going to get too aged.
Gotcha.
But at the same time, because of the way we operate, this kind of temperature and humidity is great for when we want to do finishes, and we can get stuff out a little quicker on that. But I mean, at the same time, something like Patience right there, the really cool black and gray
That's this
artwork.
one?
Yeah, that boy right there.
Check this out.
What was it? That was actually the first thing that Michael and Tim laid down a month before we opened. And
Okay.
then we released that, I believe, in November. And so that took 18 months to finish. Like, that
Okay.
was already 6 to 7-year-old whiskey in there. And,
So
yeah.
what, you said different blends, different juices.
Yeah.
What's in here?
So there's a mix of peated and non-peated malt whiskey.
Okay.
Let's see, we've got Boulder, Colorado, Journeyman, which is out in Michigan, and Brooklyn Distilling up in Brooklyn, New York. And so it's got a nice mix of all that. And then we've ended up finishing those whiskeys. We blended them together, finished them in Oloroso and PX sherry casks. So that adds a really nice kind of rounded red fruit note to there. And yeah, like, again, we also called it Patience because they laid it down a month before we opened our doors. And 18 months after we opened our doors is when we went ahead and bottled it. And it's probably my favorite bottle that we have.
Okay.
At the moment.
That was going to be my next question.
Yeah.
Which, we got a assortment up here.
Like,
what
for
would
me,
be your favorite?
yeah. I mean, the Arts Blend is probably my favorite bourbon we've produced. But for me, I kind of grew up on Scotch. Like, I really like malt whiskey for sure. And yeah, that Patience. I also really like peated whiskey, which is those kind of smokier whiskeys.
Okay.
And yeah, so it's that perfect combination of sherry. It has just the right amount of peat. Like, it's a tasty tipple.
Okay, then. Might have to try that. Get
Yeah.
me a bottle. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
When you come in here today, I mean, what's the typical day look like for you, from getting here to the bar to maybe tasting? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, what does it look
So-
like at a distillery?
I mean, for the days that the tasting room is actually open, Wednesday through Saturday, Sunday, that's, come in maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours before open, just look through what we have, start setting up the bar, make sure that we have enough syrups and everything stocked in case we had like a busy day where we had to run on something, just make sure we're able to get through the week. And then, start setting up the bar, get ready for service. And then it's usually like Monday and Tuesday. That's where a lot more of the back of house stuff happens. Tuesday is our prep day. So I'll go out, do a bunch of shopping. Me and one of the other bartenders will kind of knock out the syrups, juices, any kind of little things that we need to make sure we can run for the week, for the month. And Mike and Tim, that's usually they'll be able to do, taste through some product. They'll kind of look through their production schedule, see what needs to be moved around, what needs to get ready for bottling, what needs to be put into one of the mixing tanks, what mixing tank needs to be pulled. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, just going back real quick, like this patience, is that something that you guys would regularly produce, or is that just like once it's done, it's
for us,
finished?
The thing is, all of our aged spirits, they're all, like everything we make as far as aged spirits is going to be a very limited run. Our largest run to date was Rhapsody. That was our first bourbon we put out. I believe it's this, or
It's
that
this
guy
one.
closest
Yeah,
to
yeah.
you. We made 1,280 bottles of that. It took, like 7-8 barrels from 4 different distilleries. And so there's so many different unique variables that go into a barrel. Like, it'd be impossible for us to ever recreate any of our blends except by the grace of God. Like, so like one of the things is, one of the big guys, like they can do a distillation run. They have these massive aging warehouses. But so like 2 barrels that came off the same run, like literally one after the other, but you put one in this part of the warehouse, you put one up here, they will taste completely wildly different, even though they've aged the same amount of time in the same space. But it's just, they're just because there's going to be different humidity, there's air currents are going to be slightly different here and there. And so that's going to change up the way that wood and alcohol interact over that aging period.
That's crazy.
So there's so many little variables that when we're blending only, like, again, largest batch was like 8 barrels. Like, there's no way for us to account for all those different variables. We can get barrels from the same distillery. You know, it's their product, but they're going to be distilling a couple hundred to 1,000 barrels, and then they'll mix those together to kind of create a product that they can recreate over and over and over. And for us, we're taking very unique barrels, and then we're like, we really like these flavors coming from these barrels, so we want to highlight those really unique flavors. Whereas, again, most blenders who are doing on a larger scale, they're gonna take some of this barrel, take some of this barrel. It'll kind of it'll even out some of those rough spots that we were finding that were coming from this barrel. And that's why you'll blend together a couple thousand barrels at a time. Whereas for us, we're doing, single digits as far as how many barrels are going into a blend. So, yeah.
It's crazy, man.
Yeah.
Stuff you don't really think about as a consumer.
Yeah.
I know I don't. So
Yeah.
you're giving me a lesson today,
Fair
for
enough.
sure.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
It keeps us on our toes.
Okay.
We like to joke that we love our jobs and kind of hate ourselves. So,
What is that? What's the joke?
Again, we can't really keep recreating, so it's a new blend every time. So there'll be like a new bourbon every year at least. There'll be a couple of malt blends, and it's just everyone's going to be a new one. We just got to figure out what that is. And for us, like I would say, kind of conceptualizing a blend from conceptualization to bottling, you're looking at easily 5 to 6 months for the way we do things, because once we've figured out what barrels we want, we'll have them here, and then it'll just be, let's mix these guys together, and it starts out just kind of throwing spaghetti against a wall. We'll just make a bunch of little mini blends on a little 100-gram scale, and we'll taste through those, and then we can start making up rules, such as like, oh, if there's more than 10% of this in the blend, it just takes over. Or these two kind of fight each other, so maybe let's see what flavor we want to come out a little more, and we'll have to just kind of mute this a little bit. And we'll slowly come up with different percentages and kind of rules that we can work with. And then we'll like break that down. We'll make a few more blends on that small scale and kind of test it out like a bracket system, taste them against each other blindly until we find which one we like. And one of the other things that we like to work on is we start with the finish of our whiskey, because we definitely like our whiskeys at a higher proof. Like the majority of our whiskeys are 100 proof or above.
Hey,
Yeah.
I think most people would like that.
Yeah. But usually when you get to those higher proof points, you tend to get what's like a thin distillate, like where it's a very thin finish. You'll taste it, and then it just kind of falls off the palate real quick.
Gotcha.
And I mean, you're paying for a premium product. You want that to actually, you want to enjoy it. So we like to start with the finish. Make sure that it's not just something you taste and it evaporates and it's gone. We like to see that it evolves down the palate. You can actually taste a bunch of really interesting notes. So
Got you.
yeah.
And is that something you guys offer private tasting here? Is that something that is that what the private sessions
so that's part of it.
go
So
through,
with
or
the
is
private
it like
tasting? The way we run that is like when you and your party arrive, everybody gets to choose a cocktail off the menu.
Okay.
And then you'll get a tour through the entire facility. It'll take about 20, 30 minutes. And we'll kind of show you all the active barrels we have. You can see the still and all. And then for the second portion of that, you'll be sitting in the blending lab with either Tim or myself. And we'll go over like how to taste whiskey. We'll taste you through like a couple bourbons, some ryes, and then some of the fun stuff we have, especially the malts and whatnot. And so we'll go through that, and then we can get as nerdy as you want, or we can just shoot the shit, like have some fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Gonna look into that.
Yeah.
That sounds fun, man.
It's a good time.
Well, congratulations on everything. Give my regards. They'll see this, Tim and Michael.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, it's cool to see all the success and hear the history
Appreciate it.
behind the work. It sounds like a lot of work, man,
Yeah.
that goes into it for a bottle. So
Yeah.
it's not something the average consumer would think about. I know
But
like I said, definitely learned something today. So
I mean, that too. We like to kind of bill ourselves as it's a place for people to come nerd out. Like the vibe in the tasting room, we like to say it's like an adult clubhouse. Just come in, chill. You can just chill, or if you want to talk and learn something, we're always here. We're all about education.
cool.
For sure.
Cool, man. 2-year anniversary. It's actually tomorrow.
Yep.
You guys got some events going on. If people are in the Winter Park, Orlando area, they can stop by.
Definitely welcome to stop in. It's a good time.
Is there any day specific, better time to stop through, or?
I mean, we're open Wednesday through Sunday. We have a killer happy hour. So like I said earlier, tomorrow we'll have an all-day happy hour, but our standard happy hour is Wednesday through Friday from 4 to 6:30. So
Okay.
2.5 hours, the same deal, $5 off cocktails, $3 off flights, $1 off pours. So it's a pretty solid happy hour.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to mention before we wrap up, man?
No, I think that's it.
Cool.
I think we kind of hit on all the good points around here.
All right.
So yeah.
Sounds good, man. Thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers. Hey, let's get the toast. Yes, sir. This has been another Stolen Conversations. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment, share. And powered by 107 The Lock. We're here at / Winter Park, Florida. Thank you, Samir.
Yeah. Thank you.
After you, man.
Let's go. Yeah. So this is everything. This is a lot of what we've dumped over the last 2 years. This is here for set dressing. We're gonna probably have another 2 ricks kind of put up there. But down here through these curtains, this is kind of where all the magic happens. Yeah. So it is a little bit of a mess. We've got a lot of production happening lately, but yeah. So this guy here is our still. Say hi to Bob. We named him after the electrician who got him up and running. So yeah, one of the things is like, as far as the still goes, this is relatively small. And for us it works because again, we're here as a blending house. We produce our own bitters here. We produce literally everything. And so we'll also be making our own vermouth and we'll be making our own liqueurs so that the tasting room can operate more like a fully functional bar. But the really cool thing about this guy here is he is a hybrid still. So we've got here a pot still, which is the very kind of classic style of still based off of what the old Arabic alchemists had come up with. And so with this kind of still, you tend to get a lot more of that grain character. You get a little more of those oils that'll come through in the distillate. and the drawback is you tend to get a lower proof. But again, a little more of what would be referred to as a robust distillate, which is why this is very much preferred for like Irish and Scotch whiskey. And then this guy here is what's known as a column still. So each one of these little plates acts like a mini still within the column. So with this kind of a still, you tend to get a much higher proof product, and therefore you'd refer to it kind of as a cleaner distillate or something that's a little more floral. So it's very great for making gins or really good vodka. In here is where we'd put whatever we're trying to distill. Underneath here, there'll be a element that's jacketed with water or oil, and that will slowly bring this up to temp. And the way you kind of know what you're getting out of the still from the parrot there is based off of the temperature. You'd actually run like so you can see we have these digital thermometers that are set up. So based on the temperature, we can tell what part of the distillation run we're in. So alcohol will start boiling off closer to 170, 180, and once you get up to that like 190, close to 200, 212, that's where the water starts boiling off. That's where you get closer to the tails. And then so these are our blending tanks. We have like a smaller one here. We have these bigger guys here. And when we actually, so as you know, I was talking about how we come up with a blend, it takes us a good few months just to design a recipe. Once we have our recipe kind of down what we want, you can see that guy there is on this big old pallet scale. Okay. So we can start then just dumping barrels into there, and we'll figure out what weight of everything that we need in there, and we'll let everything sit in the tanks for about 3.5, 4 weeks usually, and we want because we've got like anywhere from 3 to 4 different solutions, alcohol, each different whiskey is a different solution. We want it to all homogenize and come together and coalesce into a, great product. So we need to give it that time. It all becomes one unified solution, and then we'll start proofing it down. And we do a process referred to as slow proofing. So rather than just doing the math, adding the amount of water that we need, and crashing that solution, which will cause all of that to separate, we'll slowly add a little bit of water every couple hours over the course of another almost month or so until we get close to the proof that we want, and then we'll get it ready for bottling. And then here we have kind of all of our fun stuff. All the barrels kind of up against the wall here. These are all going to be barrels that come directly from the distilleries that we're partnered with. So you can see like Journeyman, which is our partner out of Michigan there. We've got Ragged Branch, which is out of Virginia. They do a really interesting wheated bourbon that they double oak. So they put it into a virgin oak barrel, as I was saying, and then after about 4.5, 5 years, they'll put it into another freshly charred barrel that's never been used. So it tends to get a little more of that oak structure coming through. So those are some really interesting bourbons and whatnot. And then over here, if you guys want to see, this is kind of a fun little teaching aid. The inside of this, like you can see, this is a number 4 char is what we'd call this. And this is pretty standard on bourbon. And yeah, these barrels have dried out. Like I said, this is more here for a teaching aid. We can kind of show you what a charred barrel looks like. And then this guy is here. You can see it doesn't have that alligator skin look to it. This is a number 3 char. The really cool thing too is these guys here, they do a toast on the barrel heads. So again, to kind of give an example, your char is where you're going to get more of those really deep, robust vanilla and like burnt caramel, those like really hefty notes in your whiskey. With the toast, you'll tend to get almost like a softer caramel chew note, kind of marshmallowy kind of note to it. So, depending on the chars and everything, that's how you also coax out different flavors in your whiskey. One of the really cool things we've done is there's a local meadery around the corner of Zymarium. And again, as I was saying, we like to do a lot of collaborations. So we started a barrel swap program with them. And this is the most recent barrel we received from them. It had a pear and vanilla meat in there. So if you smell it now, like, You can see it's like bright, citrusy almost. Like there's a little bit of an acidic note in there, but probably in about 8-9 months time, this bourbon will be ready for release. The first run that we did with them, we got a banana mead barrel from them, and so that bourbon, it just tasted like banana bread, banana walnut muffins. It was great. Yeah. And then this guy, we're actually going to be getting this ready for bottling. We had some leftover mezcal from our first run of our agave blended product, and this was an old American single malt barrel. So we've let that that mezcal sit in here for a little while. It'll be releasing as a reposado, so that'll be coming out soon. Like I said, Cinco de Mayo.
It's got a very sweet smell to it.
Very sweet, little fruity, not too smoky. It's a very interesting mezcal that we were able to get our hands on out of a region called Durango. So these here are the PX and Oloroso sherry casks that I was talking about that the patients came from. And so like here we have a little bit of experimental aging. This kind of core area, we've got some cognac barrels, we've got these sherry barrels. We use these, we refer to it as our spice rack. So some of these have bourbon in it, some of these have malt in them. And when we're coming up with a blend, if it's just like, this could just do with that little bit of roundness, or it could do with that little bit of bright sweetness from the cognac, or that roundness from the sherry, we can take a little bit of this out, we add it to the blend, and so hence, spice rack. Yeah. It's all the little bits and bobs that we have. And then these guys here, these are our babies. These are Armagnac casks. So they're from it's a brandy that's produced in a very specific region of France. And these farmers make some beautiful product. The really cool thing with Armagnac is Armagnac tends to be a much higher age statement of product that you'll find. Like these were last filled with Armagnac in 1976. So nearly 50 years old. Yeah. You can see, like, we kept the original bungs, which is just burlap wrapped around, cork, and now we've upgraded to silicone bungs. Because, But yeah, if you want to take a scent off this, you'll see it's much more rich. It's, right? But yeah, we've got some malt whiskey in there. One of our bartenders, she likes to refer to this smell of this as like a sexy library, which, you can kind of see. It's like you smell that, and it's like, you just want to have like a red leather bound book, sit by some firelight. Like, some of these barrels will leak and all that. That's all.
I was gonna ask that about the charred ones. Those ones are very obviously. Just demonstration, but you can see there's like the cracking.
So the cool thing with the barrel is, so these rivets here, they're not actually holding the barrel together. The only thing that holds the barrel together is the pressure of the liquid that's hydrated the wood. Yeah. So the bands just kind of give them structure. But it's literally, a barrel is held together purely by pressure, and that's what makes it watertight, is you'll fill the barrel with a little bit of liquid, it'll start leaking, but as the wood soaks up, it'll swell, and then it becomes relatively watertight. But again, it still allows for that breathing to happen, and that is the big thing of aging. When it comes to aging, you gotta think almost like a living, breathing creature. It's during the summer, during the hot months, that whiskey gets driven into the wood. And then when it cools down, all the pores in the wood will kind of collapse. It'll push what was in the wood back out into the main distillate that's in the barrel. That'll have that time to homogenize as a solution, and then next season will come. Summer will hit, it gets driven, and so that's part of the aging process. Like I said, it's kind of like a living, breathing creature, and you kind of need those seasons again, where for us, we don't get enough cold for it to be a great idea to do too much do long-term aging here. But being able to get finishes done in a decent amount of time because of the weather here is great. We love nerding out with people, man.
Sure. I'm going to show them this.
Yeah.
Hey, look at where I was at today. So. Thank you, man.
Yeah, man.
Everything.
It's good meeting you.
So we're going to clean up.
Yeah. No worries.
Probably come get a mocktail or something.
Yeah, sounds good. I'll see you guys out there. Cheers.